All right, welcome everybody to the World of Dragons podcast, the podcast where a certain amount of dragons get together to discover, review, and discuss dragons in... Shit, that completely threw off my entire, flow. To discover, review, and discuss books, movies, and TV shows that have dragons in it so you can find stuff... Yeah, fuck, this entire thing is ruined.
That's okay, just keep going. Welcome to Two Dragons.
Okay, so it used to be 2.5 dragons get together to discuss stuff, right? But we lost a dragon. We are down one dragon.
Thank God we didn't name the podcast 2.5 Dragons.
Dilettante would be shackled, trapped for life.
Yeah, where we wheel out Dilettante's dead body.
Maybe instead of 2.5 dragons, we become a dragon and his rider.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
That
works.
That works.
Thing is, I had it written down like a teleprompter, and then I memorized it, Taryn. It's just...
with Dilettante gone,
that little stumble is like it's no longer 2.5. I should just get a soundboard of Dilettante sounds, just him coughing, him sniffling, and then him going, uh-huh. It's like he never left.
Ouch.
The roast of Dilettante. He's so quiet when we talk about stuff otherwise. It's because he's always half asleep.
Yeah.
Dragging out of bed. I should sound clip him just for the $5 Patreon show that he was trying to squeeze in there. Anyway, yes, so we are your hosts, Ray, that's me, and Bantam, that's him.
Hello.
We discover and then review dragon-centric media, including but not limited to books, movies, TV shows, video games, to help you dragon fans discover the next dragon-focused piece of literature or media that you want to engross yourself in. See, there, it came back to me. I got it. The intro's back.
And this week, though we're down a dragon, permanently possibly, we might be able to get Dilettante back for rare appearances. But this week we have a book that I will say is the greatest book of all time.
Yeah. It is called The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex, the self-proclaimed greatest dragon in the multiverse by K.R.R. Lockhaven. It is a borderline satirical contemporary fantasy. Yeah, borderline satirical. The thing is, to me, satire is when you take something and literally make fun of it. This is more just comedic. It's not very satirical. It's just comedic.
Before we get into it, I do want to thank Jasper. He sent an email into the show with a list of things that he would like us to review, and we took this from his list, or his or her list, their list, and you know what? If this is the level of quality that we can expect from your list, I am all in on your list, man. I was like, wait, when I started the book, I asked Ray, I was like, wait, is this one of the books that Jasper suggested? And he's like, yep. I'm like, holy shit, I love this person.
You are now his favorite fan.
This
if you want to try to compete to be Bantam's favorite fan, please send in emails to suggest more media for us to cover.
We actually did get another email. If you want to start that with that.
Within the last 3 weeks or so, since last time we checked?
Within the last 7 days ago.
Nice.
So we got an email from they're not saying not to use their names.
Let's read it at the end when we do the social plugs.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I was saying, it is a comedic contemporary fantasy set in the modern day or close to it.
Oh, it's modern. It's just straight up modern.
Yeah, with a what if magic was real and the government had a secret facility similar to the alleged Area 51 where they just did magical stuff and didn't tell nobody.
I would actually counter that with what it felt like to me was if you took the SCP Foundation and Hogwarts and mashed them together. It is a magical school / employment office that exists within a bubble that regular people can't see it, and so kind of like Wakanda. And people work there. They're called employees, but they also are taught things like different schools of magic. The magical version of the boys would be a pretty apt description, Taryn.
The book opens up with him going to the facility for his first day in the job. He's a new hire, and he literally describes it as it's like Platform 9 3/4 from Harry Potter.
The amount
the book is very on the nose with its references.
Absolutely,
a lot of pop culture everywhere. Even the dragon, when he shows up, he makes a whole bunch.
I was there for every single one of them. I got every reference the dragon made, and a couple of the ones where I was like, "Huh, I wonder what
Really,
that's
who's Tim the
referring."
Enchanter?
Tim the Enchanter is the fucking dude from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's the guy with the horns who goes, "Some call me Tim." He's the one who brings them to the caravan or the rabbit.
If you say so.
I do
Like,
say so.
I've seen the movie. I know like lots of its scenes, but it's been so long since I've seen it that a lot of the minor scenes are like really fuzzy in my brain, and I've always just been bad with names.
At one point the dragon references Breaking Bad by saying, "I'm the one who knocks," and I'm like, oh, I love it. I love it. Ray, you're gonna have to brush up on your references if you want to be Zoth-Avarex.
The main problem is just remembering names and stuff. I do make a lot of references, especially in real life, and a lot of them you don't get, but Tanith does, so I make plenty of references. But yeah, so we're gonna start with like a spoiler-free review and then get into a deep dive after the break. We've already kind of come out saying Bantam loves this. This is his favorite.
Oh yeah,
10 out of 10, 100%, A+, Bantam seal of approval.
Yeah.
Sticker, stamp.
Yeah, for those
Done.
of you who watch like Angry Joe's reviews, I give this a badass seal of approval.
You're not badass though. You can't give those seals.
No, I'm not saying that I'm the badass. I'm saying this book is badass.
Is that how it works?
I almost want to reach out to the author and interview him. I really do. I might.
Well, if I recall, this book was published in 2020, and I think it's the only one that he has, at least on Audible. I didn't check his Goodreads, but yeah. I think he's just like he had this idea, he wrote it, and then done.
He needs to make more. He really fucking does. Oh my god. This book. So I started this book. I started this book at work, which I usually don't want. I usually don't like reading or listening to audiobooks at work because I usually feel like I'm so focused on the book to try to absorb the information that I end up making mistakes at work, forgetting what I'm doing, or just move slower. This book, I literally could not stop. I did it all in one sitting. It was so good.
So without getting into like an individual scene, perhaps, unless it's not a spoiler scene or whatever, I guess just what about the book did you love so much? Was it its humor, its writing style, the characters? Like why is this book like so amazing when everything else I try to make you read?
Okay, all right. You're gonna have to give me the floor for a few minutes. First off, when I was a kid, I used to read a lot of books, and one of my favorite books was a book called Lord of the Rings, and it was a pure satire retelling of Lord of the Rings, with lots of sarcasm, some swearing, some toilet humor, just a little bit, not like kids' cartoon levels of toilet humor, and it was refreshing because you're going through the beats, you understand what the story is telling you. One of the other things that I pointed out to Ray is this book does not make up any bullshit words. It does not invent stupid terms for things that the book talks to you like, someone telling you a story. Immediately, you understand every word that's being said. You don't ever have to stop and look it up. I don't like fantasy terms in books. I really don't. I feel like as the writer, you are trying to tell a story to the reader. If the reader has to stop and look up a stupid book, or a stupid word, or look in the back of the book for a glossary of terms used in the book, that is breaking immersion.
Okay, I want to interrupt you real fast because to the people listening to us review stuff, understand you are on one end of the spectrum and I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I love fantasy terms. I miss when books have an appendix in the back that describes everything. I loved Mating Flight with its random words because they had to like, here's 3 words for the different parts of the soul that the dragons use for their magic and whatnot. The Wefo and the whatever
See
the fuck. I can't remember what the ones were.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's like I personally love that stuff. To me, that's more immersive when there's actually like you don't need to make up a word for carrots. Like, oh, in this world they call carrots a hoofla or whatever the fuck, right? You don't need to go that far. That's obviously insane. So when it fits, having actual like vocabulary for it feels better to me. Everybody has a limit on how many weird words, let's call it, they can have, whether they're real or made up. And just everyone's limits differently. Bantam's limit is extremely low. Mine is pretty high, actually.
My limit is more grounded in reality. And I actually saw a meme about this once where they said they were talking about fantasy books and they were like, this land is known as blah, 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 which means Great Blade of the Hills or something like that. And it's like, if you were to look at what we name things in real life, like we named it, Britain named almost every river Avon because Avon meant river in another language. And when they asked someone, what is this river called? Someone said Avon. And so it's just river. The point is that there's towns and cities in real life that are named like Lake Town or Cliff Town or whatever because big cliff or big lake, and it's like you don't need to make up the other joke of this elf was so powerful he had 14 apostrophes in his name, and it's like I'm not going to remember that guy's name. I'm not. And so the fact that
definitely like temperance is important, but I still just like when they're interesting names.
Yeah. The fact that every character in this book I can remember their name because they were normal fucking names. Sylvia, Harris, even the fantasy names like Zop, I remember them because they're simple fucking names. But yeah, so the humor was nonstop, which did not feel excessive. It was like you'd have like maybe 2 or 3 normal sentences and then a funny sentence. And the humor ranged from, wow, I actually had to pause the book and go like tell Ray, even though he was going to read the book.
He was
anyway.
struggling. So he was ahead of me in the book because I was trying to finish off the last book I was reading, so I didn't have to stop it halfway through. So I got a late start in the book. So he was ahead of me by like 3 hours of audio, I guess. And he would stop, come over and be like, struggling so hard not to tell me like, oh my God, this thing just happened. It's so funny. And he's trying to explain the
without spoiling
comic moment without spoiling it. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine how hard it is to tell someone the funniest part of a book without spoiling the context. I remember that I kept telling Ray like, oh, it's not really a spoiler, but, and then tell him the joke and then realize that that's not a good description and realize I'd have to spoil it. And then that tormented me.
On the topic of made up words real fast, I just remembered this. Even if they're real words, like in Tooth and Claw, when someone was laying down like couchant, right?
Couchant is
that's a real word
between us.
Yeah, it is a real word, and it is the best way to describe the position that they are laying in, but Bantam hates it because it's not an everyday word.
It's not an everyday word.
Yes, I had to look it up, but once I looked it up, it's now in my head. That's how I learn new words, by seamlessly putting in a new, like, higher tier uncommon word, and now it lives with me forever.
Yeah, it's... Couchant is
Bantam,
a word
you gotta crouch down to speak to him on his level.
Yeah. I believe that books should not... How do I word this? I don't think that books should be gatekept by education level. I believe that everybody should be able to read a book. And the fact that books like The Silmarillion exist, where it is such an impossible mountain to climb to understand anything happening in that book. And I understand that book wasn't released to have
yes,
people
I was going to say, I don't like Tolkien, but I will defend the Silmarillion. Haven't read it, but I will defend it because it was never meant to see like public eye. It was a collection of his notes on the world he made himself.
Yeah.
It was his world Bible that's people are like, we need more money, so let's just publish this for
now
that he's dead.
It is a bad example, but like an example of writing put to page that eventually, yes, against his probably wishes, but it eventually saw a book release and people read it and they go, what the fuck? And I can't really think
it's there for the super fans that'll like tread through anything.
Yeah. Or people who play Dark Souls. They want to torture themselves for a good time. So this book does not talk down to you. This book is, I would say, and I mean this in no insult to the author or the book. It is a child-friendly book, except for all the swears.
Again, as no offense intended, I'm pretty sure this is what he was going for. This is as lowbrow as you can get without being toilet humor.
Yeah. This book, like I said, it hurt. I only paused it so that I could go tell Ray something hilarious, and then I would go back to listening to it. I actually, when I take my breaks, when I take my lunch break at work, I usually take my headphones off and I go outside and smoke. I didn't this time. I actually went outside and I continued listening to the book and I didn't smoke at all. And I was like, holy shit. Like that right there, glowing endorsement from me. And I used to love reading. this book, if I had like 5 or 6 more books like this in a row, I think that would straight up reignite the spark and get me back into reading.
I'll try to find other comic books for you then. But yeah, longtime listeners will know that Bantam doesn't really like when when we review books. He would rather do like the movies and video games. I had to kind of force books on him because there are a lot more books out there compared to video games and movies and stuff.
And I totally agree
you guys
with him on that.
You guys can see how much Bantam loves this, and if you think your taste aligns with Bantam, you're gonna love this too.
Oh yeah.
As far as me, people whose taste align with me a bit more, I enjoyed it. I'm happy I read it. I thought it was really good, and I enjoyed the dragon, even though he wasn't there for very much of it, because a lot of the story follows the humans that are trying to interact around him, basically. There were a few chapters from his point of view, which were fun, but like it was a fun little romp. It's like, to use a food equivalent, you can spend a whole lot of time eating really fancy food. You're cooking at home. You're making everything from scratch, and it's beautiful. And then every now and then, you just feel like having a really trashy McDonald's burger, and it just hits the spot.
Yeah, actually, that's a really fucking good analogy, because one of my close friends, Kalina, she actually says the same thing. She is a huge foodie, and we send pictures of food back and forth to each other. Like, I almost became an Instagram girl, taking pictures of my food to show her. Every time Ray and I cook something, I send her pictures of it or whatever, and then she'll send me pictures of what she made. And I was eating these meat sticks from fucking 7-Eleven. They're called buffalo chicken rollers. They're just basically a tube of meat covered in breadcrumbs that are spicy. And I told her about it. She goes, "Oh, that sounds so good." She goes, "Sometimes I just want meat tubes." So it's like, yeah, you could go to a 5-star restaurant and then just be like, "Man, I am really fucking craving McDonald's."
Sometimes it just really hits the spot.
Yeah, and I mean, absolutely no disrespect. If the author ever listens to this before if I ever manage to interview him, I mean zero disrespect, because I love this book. It is so good. And you know what? If he had an idea and he wanted to get it down, he fucking nailed it.
Yep. Bantam just wants to pick his brain.
I do. Or hers, I don't know, because it seems like it's initial, and then last name. I don't know.
I sorry if I'm wrong, but I think when I saw the author picture while trying to look up if they were planning a sequel or anything, it looked like a guy. But I didn't look that hard. I was reading the text rather than looking at the picture. But
okay.
Corner of my eye, I think it's a guy.
I'm gonna reach out to him. I'm gonna find a way, and I'll send him the raw recording, and I'll be like, "This is what we do. Please, for the love of God, I gotta interview you."
But yeah. So to try to get a bit more into like the actual review part rather than just like gushing about it, the dialogue, the prose, the way it was written, I forget the word.
The dialogue was written
the writing style.
For me, the writing style, at least the dialogue, was written like an actual conversation that would happen in real life between people in this situation. Like, there were times where something would happen and someone would go, "This is fucking crazy." Like, yeah, that's exactly what I would have said. Like, they see something ridiculous happen and they call out how ridiculous it is, and then they move on, because they understand that they have a greater purpose and a greater mission, and they're like, "This is fucking stupid, but I'm going to keep going because I have to." Like, at one point in the book, they have a goal in mind, a very specific goal, and that goal gets blockaded. So they go to plan B. That gets blockaded. They go to plan C. That gets blockaded. And they're like, "What the fuck do we do?" Like, we legitimately don't know what to do. And then they kind of stumble into a shortcut into one of them or something like that. And it felt very real.
So the dialogue and the way the characters react feels very real. Yes, I guess to touch on the plot real quick, no spoilers, but like the way, like the plot itself, it's a very simple plot, and it only works because the author forces it to work at times. Like Bantam said, there are times where everything falls apart and then something happens. Actually, at one point towards the end, the character makes a fourth wall breaking joke saying more like a Deus Ex Machina kind of deal. Like they freaking call it. So the plot, it's weak, but it does what it needs to do. It serves the purpose of just being a vessel by which to hold these characters, and you can just watch the shenanigans unfold.
It felt like to me at a lot of points, it felt like to me like a written down novelization of a D&D campaign.
Yeah, I could see that. I have not read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've only seen the movie, but it does feel the same vein as that, where like on its own in a vacuum it doesn't make sense, but like when you see the whole picture, like, yeah, this is like the only way you could have actually done this. But yeah, back to the writing style real fast. I just wanted to mention the humor is very blunt, very on the nose. It breaks the fourth wall a couple of times. There is a scene at the very beginning when they're trying to describe one of the characters who is going to be like the cute sidekick, where the character actually thinks in his head, so to you, the reader, when he's trying to describe how cute this creature is, it was sickeningly cute, almost as if some author somewhere is trying way too hard to make a cute, adorable animal sidekick. Like that's pretty. That's pretty much the snippet from the book, and yeah, so it's very, very on the nose.
I'm looking at the cover. The cover looks so thrown together. It's so great.
Honestly, the cover is terrible. The cover looks like a really bad Photoshop job. But it fits the humor of the book, so it's like, I don't know if you could like do a amazing like $1,000 commissioned fantasy piece. It's like the cover works for the tone of the book.
Also, as an aside, because I know it's going to come up, I also want to call out the narrator, Jay Spalding. Absolutely phenomenal job narrating this book. He did enough different voices where as soon as he started talking, I knew exactly who it was without the characters having to say, Harris said. You know, like every character, I knew exactly who they were at all times. Like Sylvia, she had like this kind of, this again, like voice the whole time. Loved it. My favorite character, Eddie, who basically was described as an Albert Einstein looking dude with a Hawaiian shirt and a bad attitude and narcolepsy. I love him. But I do want to say Jay Spalding did an amazing job narrating this book.
Yeah, he did. It's one of the better ones. I'm just trying to think what else to cover before getting into spoilery things. But I think we really touched on it. It's a glowing endorsement from Bantam is like, I think we're okay with the review part.
Glowing endorsement from Bantam. Also, the other thing that the one thing I was worried about with this book was they were. Feel free to cut this. So like we don't want to spoil the plot line too much, but it's worth mentioning because people coming to us, I'm assuming, love dragons and want to see dragons. The dragon is the antagonist. They make him the villain. It's the humans versus the dragon, and so I think Bantam's trying to say that he was worried that they would kill the dragon at the end. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was really worried the dragon was going to die, and he didn't, and that made me really happy.
Instead of does the dog die, it's does the dragon die? It's like no.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good to get into spoilers.
Like real fast, I guess. I know your answer already, but 0 out of 5 stars, and would you live here?
5 out of 5 stars, and no.
You don't. Well,
you know what? Here's the thing.
It's real world, just with magic.
It's real world with magic, but I don't think I'd get to be the person that gets to interact with that magic. And on top of that, it's like, I think if I lived in this world knowing that there's a multiverse full of literally any... They actually explain that every single fantasy universe you can imagine, including Westeros or, Middle Earth, they really exist.
Any book you've read, any movie you've seen, they're real. The person just wrote it down because it crept into their mind while they're sleeping.
Yeah, the multiverse leaked into their brain.
It's like no one's that creative. It's all real out there.
Yeah. So every single universe you could imagine is out there, and you can go to it. But I would be afraid that if I lived in this world, I wouldn't get to go to any of them because I wouldn't be magically inclined. Therefore, I'd never get to go to sight. So if we could, have caveats or have, conditions. If I were magically inclined, yeah, hell yeah, 5 out of 5. I'd go here, I'd live here. But as far as the world itself, 5 out of 5. Contemporary, I can have my cell phone, I can have video game consoles, I can, have energy drinks, whatever, coffee, and I can have all the trappings of comfort that I'm used to in my life, while also having access to the multiverse. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you know what? Fine, fuck it. 5 out of 5, and yes, I would live here.
I'll cut this for the actual release, but it's basically just the roleplay world that you and I already live in.
Yeah.
With the whole, always joking that Ray brings you to, like, this universe, and in this universe, Kingdom Hearts Souls, we have to be this thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we pretty much already live there.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for me, you know what, I'll say 5 out of 5, even though I did call it lowbrow and stuff. It was still just very refreshing, and it's good. It was 5 out of 5, maybe like 4.8 out of 5 if I had to be a stickler, right? But it was great.
Now,
as far as what I live here, I already do. I can already go to different multiverse worlds. It's called reading.
Yeah. Real quick, you mentioned there was a book that you were listening to a long time ago where they told a joke so bad that you said you were punching at the air. What
I did want to mention that when I was talking about how blunt the humor was.
Did this book ever make you punch the air?
No. So this book was really, it was kind of light on the absolute terrible puns. It was just more pop culture references, but like none of them were like egregiously horrible. Like none of them felt really forced. The fact that it was like pretty much nonstop, honestly, made it so they all kind of just felt natural. The book in question that you're talking about is a book. It's a high fantasy book where a dragon, it has a shapeshift to human form to hide from the party adventures that are trying to kill him, and adventures. I'll get into that later when we review that book finally, because I will force you to read it at some point. But at like the absolute lengths the author went to just set up the joke of a crouching dragon will always be more dangerous than a hidden tiger. It was so bad.
Yeah, I feel like I think that's one of the other strengths this book has is it doesn't need to set up any of its jokes. It can just tell it and move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Because every joke is a reference to something in real life. So
yeah. The setup for that joke, the hidden dragon, no, the crouching dragon's bed is always more dangerous than a hidden tiger. The setup for that is the dragon's in human form. While in human form, it's a lit RPG, he has monk level, so he is a monk. So he does like kung fu stuff, whatever. And he's traveling with the adventurers that he's hiding from / with. They get ambushed by a group of evildoers who happen to be were-tigers, but they're were-tiger ninjas, so they can go invisible and teleport. And so then he's kicking their butts, and that's when he delivers the line that a crouching dragon, because he's doing monk stuff, so he's got a crouching form, is always more dangerous than a hidden tiger, because the tigers can go invisible and stuff. It was god awful. I actually punched the wall.
I remember he told me about it. He's like, "You ever hear a joke so mad that you just attack anything around you?" And I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "Oh, this book." And I thought about it while I was listening to The Conjuring. That I'm just gonna call it that.
Yeah.
But while I was listening to this book, I kept thinking, like, I wonder if this joke would make Ray punch a wall. All right, so spoiler time?
We're going to have our short little musical break. I'm going to come back with spoilies. Welcome back, everybody. Spoiler time. Sit down, buckle up. The book is really short. It's only like 8 hours in audio format. So you can probably just like blitz through it and then come back to listen to us, not rant. We're actually pretty good, so gush about, I guess. Bantam, what do you want to get off your chest?
All right.
You're in another room and I can still see you like squirming in your seat.
Yeah, every single character in this, almost every book I've ever read, there's always one, if not 2 or 3 characters that I fucking hate. I hate that they exist. There's almost always a character where I feel like their inclusion in the book makes the book worse. No character in this book does that for me. No character. Every single character brings its own little beacon of light to its little corner, and I love every single one of them. But one of the things I really want to get off my chest is that there's a character named Zop, and toward the very beginning of the book, the main character Harris, he's a conjurer. He was hired as a conjurer to go work at site, which he decides to help a firefighter prank somebody else. So he thinks the best way to do that would be to summon an imp. And when he summons it, he summons this little creature called Zop, which is described as Ray said before, the writer trying too hard to make something cute and marketable. And it's described as like sloth-like with fluffy brown fur,
like a baby sloth with fluff and fur
and little wings and cute little paws and everything else. And
kind of sucks that I don't think sloths are cute though, so it's kind of lost an effect on me.
Well, sloth-like could also just mean that it has elongated arms and legs. It doesn't necessarily mean its face is that, whatever. But yeah, this this character, Zop, I was like, holy shit, this is Ray. This is Ray in his travel form.
Yeah.
Super
So
fucking
those of you
cute.
who know me personally or have talked to me on socials or of any kind know that I kind of have two moods I swap back and forth between. Sometimes I'm really like easygoing, adorable in text format, right? Really easygoing, playful, and like whatever, right? And then other times I'm like, I don't know, the inner dragon comes out and I get very like, not grumpy, but like, it's very raw.
Sometimes
Anyone who talks to me on like Telegram or something knows that I tend to talk in character a lot because it's just funner to express that way. I'm a big D&D nerd, so I always get in character when I just do anything online. And yeah, I swap back and forth between being small, cute, and easygoing versus being like, hey, I'm in charge and I'm going to start bossing people around now.
if you can't handle Ray at his capital D semicolon less than, then you can't get him at his semicolon 3. So yeah, Zop throughout the whole book. Now the thing is that when they don't really introduce the dragon until like 5 or 6 chapters in, and Zop comes in at like chapter 3 or something like that. So there's a couple chapters.
It's pretty early.
Yeah, so there's a couple chapters where Zop is there, and I was just like, holy shit, this is Ray, holy shit, oh my god, everything he's doing is like the way I know Ray in real life, oh my god. And then the dragon shows up, and when the dragon shows up, I'm like, holy shit, this is also Ray.
Yep,
oh my god,
like I said.
this is the other side of Ray. It was so fucking good. The dragon is highly sarcastic, which I love. I do love sarcasm. At one point, he's doing a news interview with a reporter, and he's trying to relate to the reporter like a world that he's been to, and he says,
It's like, where are you from?
It's like Westeros with castles and dragons and shit. He
Well,
says
like,
castles and dragons and shit, and I was like, oh my god.
part of the delivery there is before he mutters himself like, wait, what's hot right now here? Oh yes, Westeros. It's like Westeros.
With castles and dragons and shit.
Yep. I swear I'm not bipolar or schizo or anything. I just kind of have two personalities I swap between.
Yeah. And so the other thing is that one of the biggest problems I have with books, and a lot of this is just going to be me telling you why this is my favorite book of all time. One of my biggest complaints about most books is length. And again, this is not disparaging of this book, but it's a short book. But the reason why is because he didn't spend fucking 20 pages describing a building or 3 pages describing a character's clothes. In fact, at no point in the entire book did anyone's outfit get described at all.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Nobody's clothes were described in this book at all, except Eddie. Eddie being the Albert Einstein dude who says that he basically wears like sweatpants and flip-flops or whatever. I don't remember exactly what he's wearing, but I remember they described him as dressing like a slob, like someone who doesn't want to be here anymore.
I'm done with this outfit.
It's the I'm done with this outfit, because the biggest joke with Eddie is he's waiting for his retirement papers. He submitted a formal request for retirement, and he's waiting for the bureaucracy gears to turn so that he can finally retire. And that's the only time I think they ever describe the fact that, you know, he's dressed a certain way. The other thing is that one of the characters is described as being traditionally beautiful, because the dragon ends up kidnapping her as a pseudo princess. But I don't think they really describe the physical features of most of the other characters except the basics. Like, this guy is really big. He's got a big head, or he's really tall. That's it. You're allowed, and the reason I like that is because now you're allowed to imprint on these characters whatever you want. You can imagine this character as any race you want. You can imagine this character as you know, looking super handsome or super ugly, whatever the fuck you want. You're allowed to put what you want on those characters because the author didn't spend 4 pages describing it to you ad nauseum.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. He basically took a really good book and cut all the bullshit out, and that's why I liked it. Because there are times where I'm listening to an audiobook or reading with, you know, a different book, and I'm like, oh my god, and I'll skip 2 or 3 pages ahead and be like, all right, good. They're on the next to the next point.
The only times I ever skip anything is in a lit RPG when they start going over the person's character sheet again.
Yeah, that's a big problem with lit RPGs in general. Is like every time the character levels up, they have to
audiobook.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, because usually in lit RPGs, like on page, physical page, it'll just be a little block, and you could just skip over it if you want. You don't care.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, like I said, I would describe the site, which is the magical place that the main character is going to work at as a conjurer. I would describe it as the SCP Foundation, because they collect magical artifacts in vaults, and they have all these, rules and regulations. They actually called out the fact that they have like loose lip sink ships and
Hmm.
blah blah blah, like as
It's
motivational
a
posters.
bureaucratic corporate hellscape.
It's a bureaucratic corporate hellscape, i.e., SCP,
Yeah,
mixed with
they play it up a
Hogwarts.
bit, like the whole running gag with the trying to get the air conditioning switch from like heat to cool or something.
Yeah, it required months and months of bureaucratic paperwork, and
Because
like
like they would come like, you need to sign off on this, and then we have to go back and get our tools. Why are you bringing tools with you? Oh, because that's just not against protocol or whatever.
yeah,
And then they come back later with like the piece, and they're like, oh, but we got to go back to get this other thing. And if we don't, assuming we don't forget the piece, then we'll get this set up right away. And he's like, why don't we leave the piece here? It's like, no, because that would break the chain of custody for the part, and we can't do that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
weird.
They showed up to look at the spot that they needed to work at, and then Eddie was like, "Why don't you just work on it? Because you're here." And he's like, "What? No, can't possibly." I knew this book was going to be good when there was something else I wanted to bring up. There's a video game on Steam that I played a long time ago, and I thought it was pretty interesting. It's called Tactical Breach Wizards, and the concept is it's a XCOM like game with characters that are both magical in the sense of like witches, wizards, warlocks, but also modern day SWAT police. So like you'll have a dude wearing essentially bomb armor, like bomb defusal armor, but he's got a sensor and like a magical wand. And when Harris drove up to the bubble that hides sight, he was described as seeing two security guards with guns and wands, and they were checking the car for contraband by scanning it with their wands. And they were like, clear. And I was like, that's basically Tactical Breach Wizards. It's modern day police mixed with magical wizards. And I thought that was fucking hilarious. And I was like, I could get into this book, you know. So yeah, that the hook for me was right there in like the very first chapter. Also, when the main character looked up at the sun and then burned his eyes and said "fuck," like I was like, all right, he's an idiot. I love him.
You done?
Yeah,
I gave you the floor so you can.
yeah.
do the
I
whole-
don't want to just talk forever though.
All right, it's fine. I'll just pretend like I'm interviewing you. Like, what do you think about this character? About this one? About that one?
I mean, hell, that would probably be good for this episode.
Everybody comes to us to see the dragons. Let's talk about Zoth a bit. Zoth-Avarex.
Okay, yep. Let's talk about him.
So first off, he's amazing.
He is absolutely amazing.
He's kind of a snarky, semi-sarcastic, pop culture slinging dragon that just it also kind of falls prey to the dragon stereotypes of like, nope, gotta kidnap a princess, gotta get a bunch of gold, and people like bring up like, why don't you just magic your gold? And he's like, well, for some reason, magic and jewels and gold and princesses are not affected by magic.
Yeah.
Which is why dragons want them so bad. You just want what you can't have.
He even says that he doesn't fully understand why he wants gold and princesses and jewels. At one point, the U.S. government brings him truckloads of gold, and he's like, "What about the jewels?" Like he's like, it's not enough to get gold; he has to get the jewels too. I should mention the entire reason the dragon exists in this book is because the U.S. government that knows of Sight's existence, in fact, I think they founded Sight, they want to summon a dragon to bolster the armed forces. They basically want an all-powerful dragon so that it can just go over to countries they don't like and just blow shit up. So they plan on summoning a dragon to Earth, binding him to the U.S. military, and then just using him as a super weapon.
Yeah, I kind of like when he brings up the fact, like, what was the setup for it? The military generals like getting mad at him. They were trying to pull some ethical like high ground on him, but I forget like what it was. Some moral high ground. I think it was because they're getting mad at him for kidnapping the girl and stuff and whatever. The point is that he claps back with, "Don't you dare pull like the moral high ground on me. You guys were prepared to summon me to rip me away from my home without without permission or notice, whatever, and then like enslave me to become a weapon.
Yeah, and when he just expresses displeasure in that, he's like, "Why don't I go see if any other countries are interested? Maybe China or Russia or Pakistan or whatever." And they're like, "Oh,
Oh,
no,
oh
no,
right,
no."
right. The general's doing the whole like, we don't negotiate with terrorists, and you're committing acts of terrorism right now. And he's like, don't, how fucking dare you? You guys basically kidnapped and wanted to enslave me, but like, no, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Which was such a refreshing take, and I was really happy that that came up.
There were a couple points in this book where it felt like the writer was also writing his frustrations with the modern world.
With the fantasy genre?
No, not with the fantasy genre, with the real world. Like,
both.
he was talking, there were a couple points in the book where the dragon addresses racism and how stupid it is, and the divide between the rich and the poor, and like at one point, because they offer him 10 million in gold. They're like, we'll pay you 10 million in gold to willingly join the U.S. military, and he's like, well, how much did do you know how much Smog got in the Lord of the Rings? And they're like, well, how much? Like, X amount of million. He's like, 63 billion. And he's like, so I think I deserve 63 billion. And they're like, oh, it's gonna take a while. And he's like,
I think it was the prospective value of all the gold that was in the mountain he took over.
Yeah, and they were like, well, it's going to take a while, and he's like, what? Why don't you just ask the richest people in your world? Like, they hold all the wealth. This guy's worth X amount of billions. Just make him donate it. Actually, he does mention that he says just empty Fort Knox.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's another thing I want to bring up, because like the thing is, like, Zoth the dragon really does have a lot of like really interesting insight to the way the real world works. When he's talking about, because people are like, you really want people to just give you their hard-earned treasure or hard-earned money or gold or valuables? They said valuables, and he's like, he goes on topic of like, I wouldn't really say hard-earned, because what is that, like 1% of your population holds like more wealth than like the other 80% or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And it's like they didn't really earn it. At a point, money just starts making itself. And then he talks about like the fundamental forces of the universe. It's like the ones we know, right? Gravity, electromagnetism, strong and weak nuclear force. But then he has two other ones that exist in the sake of this book: magic and luck. Luck is just a stronger force, and in fact might be the strongest force. For example, you have no power over where you popped out of your mom's vagina, I think is how he says it in the book, right? That is sheer dumb luck. And then like if you just happen to be born in a better circumstance, then you're just going to have more luck pile upon you, and you're going to end up, everybody wants to say that they're self-made, but they're really not. It's all luck. They were lucky to be born in a situation where they could do this or do that, or they had, enough safety nets to be able to take risks. They had parents who could help them, and et cetera, right? It was a really interesting rant on just the power of luck and how nobody really actually earns anything.
Yeah. And it didn't feel insanely heavy-handed. It didn't feel like he was trying to, inject a ton of politics into the book. He just kind of lightly touched on it, made fun of it. And as a reader, you kind of go, yeah, that's true. And then they move on. And I liked it. He's like, when he was talking about ruling the humans, he's like, you guys can't even decide what color skin you hate. Or you guys can't even get over skin color. Why do you, blah, blah, blah. And I liked that too. That was, the thing is that even though Zoth-Avarex is the antagonist, he's not evil. He just wants
what a dragon wants.
He just wants what a dragon wants. And he even offers, like, if you pay me this money, I'm going to just stay here and protect this country. Like, you humans are interesting and annoying. And that's probably the best thing that a human can hope for from a dragon, is that you're interesting enough not to kill, but you're annoying enough not to, deal with or something. But there's a couple times, I think he does 2 television interviews with 2 different reporters, and he really loves the attention, which I thought was cute. I legitimately, he's playing 20 Questions with Sylvia, who he kidnapped, who is the sister of one of the other main characters. And he's just a really, they inject so much personality into this dragon in such a short time that I actually really ended up liking him. Like, you feel like you could be friends with him if you played your cards right.
Yeah, definitely. You just need
And
to be willing to stroke his ego, I guess.
yeah, I mean, if you love dragons and you're willing to stroke a dragon's ego nonstop, then he'll like you.
Hey, come stroke my ego.
I stroke it up. No.
There we go. There's the joke.
There we go.
Everybody in the Discord got it at the same time too.
Yep. Yeah. So the as far as Zop is concerned, Zop is, as I said, he has a lot of qualities that I see in Ray. Like, he can be plied with treats. He loves belly rubs. You know, he's super cute. He can also be
like
kind of feisty. At one point, and I mentioned this to Ray too, with my favorite character in the entire book, Eddie. He's narcoleptic, but not once does the author say he's narcoleptic. Or at no point does a character turn to another character and go, "Oh, he's narcoleptic." It's like you just understand he is, because he just randomly falls asleep sometimes. And at one point he's sitting in a chair talking to them and he just falls asleep, and then Zop goes over and just bitch slaps him awake. And he just returns to the exact thought that he left off at before he fell asleep. And it's like, you don't need to shove it in someone's face. Hey, by the way, he has narcolepsy. You just understand that that's a thing that happens, and everyone just goes, yeah, he's got narcolepsy. This book at no point does the video game or book thing of every time a thing is mentioned, another character has to turn to another character and explain the whole history of it, because you, the reader, don't know. So, like, you know, in a fantasy book, someone will be like, "Oh yes, back in the Blood Wars," and then someone else will be like, "The Blood Wars? I don't remember that." And someone's like, "Oh, so 50 years ago," you know, and that's always annoying to me. It's like, I understand that the reader doesn't know what the Blood Wars was, but then they go through 2 or 3 pages describing it, and it's like, I don't care. Just tell me why this matters in this situation, and move on.
Yeah, to touch on, I guess, like, topic shift to, like, the plot real fast, like, with how stumbly it gets. It was pretty weird, because, like, initially they go for the binder clip of Steve's binding clip.
Steve's binder clip.
Yeah, just Steve's binder clip. There's no of. Okay, that explains why I'm stumbling. But they're just going for that, and they have this plan, and the plan kind of works, kind of doesn't, whatever. But then, like, it doesn't matter. It's not turns out they had the clip all along, right? And then, even though they have the clip, which they would struggling really hard, like, we need the clip to be able to bind him and we resummon him in his own world, right? And then at the end, when they do that, they didn't use it. They forgot to put it inside the summoning circle, which I thought was hilarious, but it's just like, the whole book is just that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, the thing is...
At one point, there's somebody else who's going to try to get a magic ring, which they think will, like, mentally enslave him. And he goes through the 3 fears, which are fun in their own right. But then it gets to the end, it's like, why don't you just take the shortcut to just bypass it all? It's a fucking escalator that goes down through the whole dungeon and just bypasses everything.
Yeah, the 3 fears. Merlin has a island, and in order to get access to Merlin's vault, you have to go through the 3 fears, and it's the only part of the book that's played deadly serious, because there's monsters in there that will legitimately kill this guy. And it's a side character who's going off on his own epic adventure, and then you find out when it's all said and done that it was pointless. And he's like, wait, what? And yeah, then Merlin's like, why didn't you just use the shortcut right here? And he's like, what shortcut? And
no. So what happens is he's basically on comms with someone back at base who's like reading the directions to him, like, all right, now where you going across this ocean or lake, whatever it was, like, just don't think about anything terrible, because then it'll be manifest. And then he gets like to this other part, and he's getting directions from this guy, and so he's like reading off the paper back at base, and when he gets to the end of the directions, like, oh, you could just use the shortcut. Oh, like, you should have read the instructions from beginning to end at least once first before starting.
Yeah, he's basically on comms with a stoner. He's
like, what's that about a shortcut? Nothing. Do you maybe see like a door there? Opens the door and there's an escalator. You could have just bypassed everything.
Yeah. The other thing about Merlin is they put Merlin in this book, and most people would assume, you know, if you picture Merlin in your head, you're picturing this stoic, you know, all-powerful wizard or whatever. But the way the book described him kind of felt like Merlin from Sword in the Stone, the Disney movie. Like, it said that he was
absent-minded, kind of.
He was wearing all blue and was just kind of like chill. Like, at one point, Merlin is surfing, and it's just like, whatever. And then when Chris Miyazaki, see, I can remember every character's name because they're so fun. But when Chris Miyazaki finishes the Three Fears and is talking to Merlin, and he gets the ring, and Merlin is currently struggling with dealing with being able to see several minutes into the future. But he trades the ring for 37 cents and some chapstick. And when he's about to leave, Merlin asks him to sign his guest book. And it's one of the many just random aside cultural references that you get. He's looking through
There's a list of like 20 names. It's like, see if you can recognize them all.
Yeah. And I recognized almost every single one of them. There was a character from Game of Thrones, Link, Chewbacca, just silly shit.
Well, those are the easy ones.
Yeah. There was another point where a character received a message from a raven, and in a magical...
yeah, there's a Rickroll in this book.
There's a Rickroll in the book, but I was going to say, I also really liked the first interaction with the Raven, where the Raven is trying to deliver a message, and they think the Raven is attacking them, so they're, like, swatting at it and, like, running around, and the Raven is getting frustrated. So the Raven actually starts attacking them until they calm down, and then it delivers the message, and when it comes back, it brings this little thing called, like, a viewing orb. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's how people send video messages to each other. And they just send him a Rickroll. And he's like, God damn it! And it's like, oh, that made me laugh so fucking hard. Shut up, Treesenix.
Doesn't help that he got attacked by a Kraken, right?
Oh my god. I was like, if I were Chris Miyazaki rowing my boat across this lake, trying not to think of...
It was Bantam's self-insert right there.
It really was my self-insert. And even little tiny jokes, like after he gets attacked by the Kraken, because the first fear is you have to cross the lake while not thinking of the thing that you fear most, which for him happened to be a Kraken. But when he finally escapes it, he's like, why didn't I think of like a giant marshmallow man or something? And it's like, Ghostbusters.
Yep.
I also really liked the other thing that made me laugh so hard that I had to pause the book was at one point they're trying to get this magical sword, like this all-powerful sword that can kill the dragon, and they're watching a group of other adventurers that try to get the sword, and they're like, if you are worthy, try to pull the sword from the stone. And this one guy steps up, he goes, it is I, Sir Baltimore of Maryland. My crabs are delicious. I shall be worthy of the sword. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so there were a couple bits, like just on the topic of that little side story, that the book, I felt like it lost track of its own trail. Like the book itself went on a tangent. Like granted, this happened towards the end when it's trying to explain. There's like a 15-minute section in the audiobook that's like, oh, all this terrible stuff happened to this world when they took the sword, and like the entire like storyline and history of this other alternate universe here. It's like none of it needed to be told, but
it didn't. But it was funny.
It felt like he sped run through explaining like another book. Like, oh my god, imagine if that was like the cliff notes of another book he wrote or something. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, he told the history of this other world where the sword was stolen, where the ancient hero took the sword and then disappeared, because of a fart joke made in this other world, it caused the time dilation to get out of whack. So they didn't get back in time. So the Dark Lord, who destroyed everything with his army of trolls and whatnot, but then the prophecy and it's like, oh my god. No, you got that wrong. It was that there was a prophesized woman who was supposed to take the sword, and she didn't get the sword, so instead she became a badass leader and managed to save everyone from the Dark Lord. But then a cult grew that believed, how dare a woman claim to, be in charge, and they didn't want a democracy, they wanted a dictatorship. So the cult prophesized that the man who took the sword would return, and if he didn't fart in his world, which that fart, which lasted 10 seconds, let 10 years pass in the other world. And while they were all laughing at the fart, if they hadn't done that, then they would have made it back in time to save the world. But instead, he killed the prophesized child in the other world and assumed leadership. And it was like the whole history of this other world was forever changed because of a fart joke in the real world.
Yeah, the thing is, it felt like a tangent. Like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah. The other thing I really, really loved about this book was I'll do that at the end. I'll talk about the alternate endings.
Yeah, so I guess circling way back around now, Zoth-Avarex, right? He's amazing. He has moments where he like just starts putting people in their place verbally. The times where he's talking himself up. One part that I really enjoyed was a lot of not fake lore, fake science, I guess. It's kind of fun when they can tie stuff in, like when he's explaining the 6 fundamental forces, the gravity, electromagnetism, all that stuff that we went through, right? That was kind of cool because it's real. It's what we actually know, plus a little bit extra to explain like the ones we don't know, like in a world where magic exists because we can't like see everything or whatever. There's another part where when he's introducing himself, I guess, or it might be when he's putting the slap down on somebody, I can't remember. But he's like, I can see in all 11 dimensions and all 7 planes of reality or whatever. And it's like,
yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool because like, I don't know, it felt like real fake science, right?
Yeah, he actually explains why he knows so much about human culture and all their pop culture references, because he says that at one point the site location started spying on him, and he saw that and he didn't like it, so he started spying on us.
I'm the
and
watcher,
like,
not the watched.
Yeah, and that was when the Breaking Bad reference, I'm the one who knocks, or I'm the one who watches, like that was it felt like a way. If I ever get to interview him, it felt like he wanted to make a whole bunch of pop culture references, and he had a list of them, and he tried to find a way to get them into the book.
I need to know if we do ever get to talk to him, maybe not an interview, but like send over like an email of like, here are the 10 questions we want to ask or whatever. I want to know, are you just like ADHD enough that this all came like as you're writing it? Like you're writing this scene, all of a sudden, pop culture right here. Or do you have a list of like, I want to make these 100 references and I'm going to find a spot in my book for these, I'll be damned. Right?
So the interesting thing about that is I actually want to do that with the book I'm writing. I actually
have a list of references that you're going to put in.
They're not going to be
Jove.
pop culture references. They're going to be specific songs. And I can neither confirm nor deny. But it's not like I'm going to have the character like sing stuff out. It's going to be a location is described and then maybe uses a couple lines from the song in dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try to weave it in there so that it's seamless and it doesn't feel like a reference. But if anybody knows these songs, and it's not just going to be Sonata Arctica, it's going to be a bunch of stuff. But
yeah, also ICP.
No. I like ICP, but I don't think there's any way I could shoehorn any of that shit into a book. But yeah, I actually intended to do that. I'm like, here's this line goes hard in this song, like these 20 words in a row, and it's like I kind of want to find a way to get that into the book.
The thing is, I think you'd have to do another comic/satire flavor book like this one.
I don't know.
Because otherwise, I imagine it would feel forced. Like, for example, like I'm just thinking like, wow, it's a real shame that all the good lines have been taken already by other things. Like, I just rewatched on YouTube like the 4-minute scene from X-Men Apocalypse where, what's the villain's name? Like, they don't say it in the clip, so I can't remember it. But like the scene where he basically mind controls everybody through Xavier to cause all the nukes to be shot up into the atmosphere.
Magneto?
No, not Magneto. The actual like old like demigod dude from ancient Egypt.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's a villain made for that movie in that movie alone. But yeah, the point is like I saw that scene and it's such a great and hard scene because he's just going on and on like no more spears, no more slings, no more swords, no more weapons and all that, and he's just like ranting kind of to himself / to his followers as he just is mind controlling everybody. And like at the end, he says, you can fire your arrows from the Tower of Babel, but you will never reach God. And I'm like, that's such a fucking raw line that I can never use because people will know exactly what I'm taking it from. Like, it's claimed. It's too late. It was in an X-Men movie. It's popular enough that everyone knows. So like, you can never use that unless it's like a borderline satirical book where it's like, yeah, he's going to make references because the people in the book itself know what it's from and are dropping the quotes, right?
Yeah.
It's a little unfortunate that, yeah.
When I was in high school, there was a stoner kid in my class who was so hopped up on drugs besides weed that he talked like a psychopath. And there was one time where he said out loud, "There is no random. What do the fates want you to own?" And I was like, damn, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. And I still do.
Yeah.
Like that was over 20 years ago. And I remember there is no random. What do the fates want you to own? And I was like, yep, that's going to get used in something at some point. If I ever make a game, I'm going to have a fucking crazy-ass merchant who says that.
The showdown with Zoth, I kind of enjoyed. It was weird. So the plot twist at the end, which Bantam was like, he actually had to spoil that for me because he just could not contain himself, right? Just came...
What, the fact that he doesn't die?
No, the fact that he's a pet.
Oh, one thing, they do hint throughout the book. So when they first summon Zoth-Avarex, there's a character who says that he can bind Zoth-Avarex because he knows his true name. And before he gets a chance to say his true name, Zoth-Avarex eats him. And then Zoth-Avarex tells everybody, you may call me Zoth-Avarex. So they all think, well, that's his name. But then throughout the book, whenever the dragon's ego is stroked and he's talking about himself, he wiggles his butt. And they describe it probably 4 or 5 times that he wiggles his butt while he's talking about something he enjoys. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so the plot twist is that he's the pet of a demigod, which, so they get to the plan to get rid of Zoth, since they can't kill him, because he's too powerful, right? He's borderline omnipotent, I think is how he described himself, or something. So they have the plan to go back to his home world, home plane, home whatever.
Titan.
Home dimension, to resummon him there, and then to bind him using the power from Steve's paperclip or whatever the fuck it is.
Steve's binding clip.
Yeah, it's a paperclip. I don't care. To using the power of that to bind him, so now he must do what they say, meaning not kill them. And the point is, they're gonna summon him back to his own world, so that he's no longer tormenting their world. They get there. They try to summon him. Zoth-Avarex, I summon you to this world. Doesn't work, and they're like, maybe it's not his real name. Like,
are you going to talk about the fourth wall break?
Yeah. He told us his name. He stopped whatever the dead guy's name was before he said it. What if that's not his real name? And they're like, fuck, that is something that he would do. And then, yeah, again, the level of humor that this book has. It was a borderline fourth wall break. It was not a fourth wall break only because it was another pop culture reference, but it feels like a fourth wall break. It's the freaking scene from the Neverending Story where he sits there and thinks, what if I'm in a story? What if I'm a character in a book? Because this is all so fucking crazy.
He's like, all these things that have happened feel way too out of whack to be real. What if I'm just a character in a story? So he
just looks off to the side as if looking into a camera, and he's like, he's going to start talking to the viewers. He's like, hey, we need your help. We need you to choose a new name for the dragon. Just pick a name and call it out. Save us.
I said, if this dragon's name is Ray, I'm going to fucking lose my shit. And so I said Ray out loud because I was on break at the time, and I'm outside in the cold, and I go, Ray.
Yeah, it's the scene from Neverending Story where he's reading the book, and the princess starts talking to him through the book, and like it's storming, and he needs to go out and like shout someone's name. I don't remember whose name it is. It's been so long since I've seen that movie, but yeah,
we should watch it because it has the dragon in it.
We should. But yeah. Then, so whatever, that doesn't work. Nothing happens. He's like, it was worth a shot. And everyone looks at him like he's crazy. Right? It's beautiful.
No.
But
they specifically don't look at him like that's crazy. They were like, it was worth a shot, I guess.
Well, they're looking at him like he's crazy while he's doing it. Then when he's
done, he's doing it.
I guess when he's done, they understand the reference that he was making. They're like, it was worth a shot. Because it's flat out the scene from Neverending Story. If they knew the scene, then they know what he was doing. It kind of makes me want to every now and then just like look to the side as if there's a camera. Because like, what if I am a character in a story? What if life is just a simulation?
Or most people call it The Office. Like you have a moment on The Office where you just look off into a camera and make the Jim face.
Yeah, but then they find his basically his doghouse with his name on it, Professor Wigglebottom. Which leads me to believe that it makes me believe that he was hatched in captivity, because for something to work, it has to be your true name. If he was just like captured, then his true name would have been whatever he was born as. But if he was born in captivity, he would have been named...
Unless the demigod was so powerful that he overrode his name.
I mean, I guess, but I don't like the concept of overriding your true name. That's what I didn't like in the Dragon.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, whatever. My headcanon, he was born in captivity. But yeah, he's pet of a demigod. He gets something back. He's like, not cool, guys. I was having so much fun over there. And then they're like, I really can't believe that your name is Professor Wigglebottom. He's like, yeah, it's because I'm the pet of some demigod. It's like...
And he seems genuinely ashamed of it.
Yeah, they're like, but I thought you were nigh omnipotent. It's like, yeah, but there's always a bigger fish.
Which is a Star Wars. And then he says, rolled his eyes, wondering if they understood the Star Wars reference.
If he rolls his eyes at himself for making the reference, or because he has to admit that he's somebody's pet. Which is just like the final nail in the coffin, like, yeah, shit, dragon's me. Oh, well. In our canonical backstory for our online personas, Rey belongs to some demon that he accidentally summoned at some point and tables were turned, whatever. Point is, Rey is technically a pet of a much larger, more powerful being.
Yeah.
Even though he himself is a powerful dragon. So it's like, yeah, all right.
And like I said, at this point in the book, so they've summoned him to Titan, which is the world that his master or owner lives at, the demigod. And my biggest fear was that they were going to kill him, because and there was another reference that made me lose my fucking shit, and it's not really a reference, it's more just like common sense, I guess. So they have this powerful sword, right? And they got a scabbard to put the sword in. And he put the scabbard on his back. And one of the characters goes, shouldn't that go on your hip? It seems a little impractical being on your back. And the other character's like, yeah, but it looks cooler on my back. And they're like, yeah, it does. And then when he goes to unsheath the sword, he can't, because your arm doesn't bend that far. And
Yeah, so
he's struggling with the sword. And the thing is that there's a YouTuber I subscribe to called, is it Skelegrim? I don't know. But he's a medieval weapons expert, and he's talked about that many, many times. He's like, you cannot sheath a sword on your back. Stop doing it.
But it looks so cool. So yeah, they summon him. They have the little talk about like discovering he's actually a pet, whatever. And then he's like, I don't remember the transition, but it's the part where he goes like, you guys wouldn't be stupid enough to get the binder clip and then not put it inside the circle of power when you summoned a powerful dragon. Looks over. binder clip is sitting uselessly on the side. He's like, that's a shame. And then he starts trying to kill them, right?
Yeah.
They only get saved because the deity, his owner, comes, picks him up by the scruff because he's like massive, like demigod size is apparently really massive, like a giant. So picks up this massive dragon by his scruff, picks him up, is like, Mr. Wiggles, did you really burn down your own castle? His doghouse is meant to look like a castle. And he's like, I'm sorry, it was an accident. It's like, oh my god. And that's the point where the main kid is like, what a deus ex machina that was.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get their butts kicked and then the demigod shows up.
At that point, though, the Zoth-Avarex bites the demigod's finger. He's like, I'm going to regret
this later.
He bites his finger, and then he shrinks down to like small size, because the only reason they're able to be in Titan is they had this time knife that could slice through dimensions, but they didn't have enough charges, so they had to keep someone on the other side to hold the portal open. And so he saw the portal as his escape, and so he shrinks down to human size to get through the portal. Mm-hmm. And it was the only time in the movie where
which is another thing that Rey can do.
Yeah, and it was the only time in the I said movie, but it's the only time in the book.
It played like a movie in your head.
Yeah, that's the only time in the book where actual violence happened, because they were legitimately scrapping. Like, they were taking swings at the dragon. The dragon got like hit real hard or whatever. But I can't remember who did it, but someone conjured a pile of gold, which distracted him enough to be able to stop him. And I was really, really worried that they were going to kill the dragon. I really was. But thankfully they didn't. And so, they saved the day and all that crap. And then they had like a little after party, which was kind of nice. Instead of the book just ending with like, we did it, the end, Yeah. Oh yeah, it was Anna.
So then we get like an epilogue where they put the sword back. That's when we get the lore dump of that random world. They go put Zot back in his world, and they discover that, hey, conjuring is not ethical. We can't just kidnap things and make them do what we want, so we're just never going to summon ever again. Which, like, I get it. That's very progressive and PC and woke and all that, but it's like, for the sake of fantasy, boo.
Well, the thing is, here's the thing. It was more impactful for Zop specifically because he thought he summoned an imp, like a demon. But he didn't. He summoned this other creature from I think I could be mistaken, but I think they mentioned that he's not actually an imp, that he just thought he summoned an imp. Because he says, I thought imps were ugly and they looked like gargoyles. But they go to Zop's home planet, and it's this pristine rolling hills, kind of like Highlander, Scotland or whatever. And it's beautiful, and they bring him back to his home, and there's hundreds of others that look just like him. He gets to meet his brother /lover/best friend, Zim.
Brother slash lover? What?
I don't know. Well, they don't describe the relationship. It's just Zim is very concerned about Zop.
Okay, I thought I missed a detail, and then when I was reading, like, what?
No, they never describe it, so it could be anything. But I mean, if you want to canonically think that they're lovers, then the book doesn't dissuade that.
The fact that they look alike makes you think they're relatives, but if they all look the same, then who fucking knows?
Yeah, and as they're saying goodbye to him, they have that whole, oh, it turns out Conjuring is wrong. And then one of the characters has a backpack full of cereal because Zop really loves cereal. It's like his little treats, and they give him a whole bunch of boxes of cereal, and he's like, yes. That whole scene was beautiful, adorable.
Anything
and so
with
now
Zop is adorable to you.
Oh, yeah. Well, because in my head, it was you. In my head, I wasn't picturing Zop the way the book described it. I was picturing it the way you
look. All right, Zop, and you to wait here. Okay.
Like, he came really close to uwu speak for Zop for a voice, but it was perfect. The couple W's slipping in there, here and there, but it wasn't to the point where you couldn't understand what he was saying, but it was really cute. So now you want to talk about the alternate ending?
I just wanted to, like, tiny rant, wasn't really a rant, right? But, like, tiny rant on, like, boo, no more Conjuring, boo. Like, again, I get it. Realistically, that's the right thing to do. But this is a book. Keep doing the magic stuff, damn it. But, yeah.
Well, they're still going to... They say that they're still going to do magic, but they want to put magic to a more practical use. To the point where they're want
not
to
giving
bring...
up magic completely, but they're giving up a Conjuring. It's like, I'm going to conjure some stuff. Can't stop me.
But that's you, but for them, they're like, can't we solve any problem that we have without conjuring? Like, and so they want to focus on healing magic so they can try to bring that to the real world. Because I guess one of the primary goals of Sight is trying to find magic that is so good and can never be abused that after the bureaucratic machine works, they can release it to the world.
See, that's what they say, but I think they also just want to control it. They're like, we're going to have magic and nobody else can because the rest of the world is not ready for it. Like, it's one of those things where, like, we keep it for ourselves and make sure no one else knows about it, especially because, with the whole nations fighting each other all the time. It's like military secrets. It's not to ever get out, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the site ever intended to bring magic out to the real world. They have to now because, Zoth was on the freaking news. Everyone knows that magic is real. He said it. So they kind of have to now, but originally I think they were going to just keep it shut forever.
Yeah. Yeah, but, when Zoth-Avarex breaks out of sight and shows up in the real world, and he goes up to the Space Needle, and they immediately loose jets on him, and they fire missiles, and he's just like, pathetic! And one of the other things that made me think it was Ray was he's like, my egg is strong enough to deter your missiles. What do you think you're going to do against me?
Well, because that's like that is peak dragon for me. When I imagine a dragon, they're supposed to be like borderline unstoppable because like otherwise it's not fair. So it's like, be a dragon in the real world with magic or some sort of defense to withstand missiles or whatever. And he's like, the only thing that I think could actually hurt me would be a nuclear missile. They wouldn't drop that on a city, would they? And she's like, I don't know. But it's like, just overpowered dragons. That's my cup of tea. So I enjoy the fact that he has magic that's capable of just stopping missiles and whatever. Like nothing you do can stop me.
But yeah, so after the book ends,
so that's the canonical ending. Is they summon him back into his world. They end up going back to theirs while leaving him behind. I guess they just close the portal before he can jump in after them, kind of deal, right? So he gets trapped back there. He gets to be the pet of the demigod, and that's kind of where it is. People agree we're never summoning anything again, and things go back to relative normal. And then the author's like, in an attempt to be dystopian, because that's what's hot nowadays, here's a second ending.
Cool, because when the book ended, I looked at my phone, and I was like, man, there's a large chunk of books still to go.
Yeah, I would have thought it was going to be like bloopers, because I've read a couple audiobooks that have bloopers at the end of them.
Oh, God, I would have killed for that with this narrator. Anyway, but yeah, so in order to be more dystopian, he says, go back to this chapter, and now a new chapter will play. And so they...
It's what if the Ring of Basilionix, or whatever the fuck was called, what if instead of being useless, it actually was enchanted to make it so the wearer could never be summoned?
Yeah.
So they're going back to where he's talking to the news reporter on like the road after having chased, what's her name? I can't remember names. And so he's talking, and then he like feels a tingle, Because he's wearing the ring at this point because they're like, oh, it's shiny. I just wanted you to bring it to me because it's really shiny. It doesn't do anything. But he's wearing the ring. He feels a tingle and he hears the summoning call, but nothing happens. And he's like, holy shit. Because he realizes what happened. He can't get summoned back to his demigod's world. So he's like, I'm free. I can just stay here. I don't have to worry about being like pulled back at any moment.
Yeah.
So he
decides to give his secrets to the humans of how to fix their economy, how to fix climate change, basically every major issue that humankind is dealing with, he has a solution for. And then he goes, why don't I just stay here and fix it? I'll run for president.
You have to change your constitution to allow, because I'm not a natural born citizen, but what the heck, right? And he knows it's going to work out. He's going to just mind control people into doing it.
Yeah.
So they play a little scene. We're supposed to be a presidential debate with some, I'm assuming, as forged evidence, and other like little mind control stuff. He wins the presidency. Everything goes to shit. Now there's a dragon in charge of America. He takes all the gold, puts it all on the front lawn of the White House, and starts enacting really weird.
He attacks Uzbekistan. I think that was the country, purely because it has the most gold on the planet. Like
it's got the largest gold mine.
The largest. He just declared war on.
Declared war on somebody else because they apparently like wronged the princess that he ended up taking at some point.
Oh right. He also did an American Idol type thing, a reality show to determine who
wants to be my princess, right?
Yeah.
And the first lady that comes up, apparently she just has like big jugs or something. He's like, that one. But we have 8 episodes planned. Shame.
He's like, fuck if I care. I got my princess. Bye. So he declares war on the country that wronged her family and incinerates them all, and then he wages war on Uzbekistan for all their gold, and then he pulls, I don't remember the name of the creature, but they're giant flying goats from his world that when they're afraid they secrete a juice that he loves, and so he brings them to Earth.
Turns out it turns humans into zombies.
It turns humans into zombies, so now there's a zombie apocalypse, but he doesn't give a shit because he has everything.
He also outlawed the press, so he burned down like newspaper buildings and whatnot, so a lot of cities are like destroyed because of that.
Yeah, and so the main characters of the book are basically a ragtag resistance group hiding in, the shadows, distributing leaflets of news, trying to raise support for the resistance.
Vive la resistance.
Vive la resistance.
Doesn't would have loved it.
Yeah, and that was the alternate ending, and then there was it was so funny because when they said, hey, we're going to do an alternate ending, and then there was an epilogue to that ending where all of humanity turned to zombies, and there were little splinters of resistance and all that crap, and I was like, oh my god, this is what Ray would do.
Yep, that's my canonical ending.
So
I did have the idea for a book concept. If I knew, I would have to know how politics work to be able to write this, so it'll probably never ever happen. But the concept was, it was going to be titled something like I Can Do It Better, was going to be like the name of the book. And the idea was, person in like modern day, sick of the way the world's being run, sick of the news, sick of all this war, all this, just the way the world is run, right? Pollution and taxes being used incorrectly, the corporations running everything, just everything wrong with the world, right? Everything you can think of. The idea is this person somehow gets turned into a dragon, the kind of dragon who can withstand missiles and whatnot. And he's like, fuck it. If I have this power, I'm going to be in charge. Goes, kicks off kicks some of the government's butt. So he's now in charge of everybody, forces everybody to do things his way. It's like, it's so easy. Just don't be shitheads, right? And then the second half of the book was going to be like, well, everything's going to fall apart now because while he thought he had good ideas, he actually does not know how things really work, and everything is falling apart. Congratulations, Mr. Human Turned Dragon, you created the end of the world on accident.
Yeah.
Best of intentions. Or no, the road to hell is paved with the best intentions or something like that?
Yeah, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, that one. It was going to be that was going to be the concept, right? I thought it was good, but I would need to know enough about politics to be able to write the minutia of like, well, this doesn't work because of this, whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody write it for me.
Just write it and put my name on the cover.
No, not like literally for me. Just like I can't write it because I don't know enough about the inner workings of government and stuff. So somebody who does, write it for me, please.
Yeah, and then we'll read it and we'll review it.
And it'll be great.
All right. We good?
Yeah, and nothing else to bring up?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about all the pop culture references, but no.
Nah.
Let's
Let's leave some for them to discover themselves.
Yeah, that was like a fifth of the references in this book, and it's that meme of what's his face from Titanic, Jack from Titanic. What's that actor's name?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio. It's that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio sitting on the couch, snapping his fingers with a drink and pointing at the screen. The whole book is
That's Bantam every 10
gif.
seconds.
It's every 10 seconds. I fucking loved it.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us as we reviewed and then discussed The Conjuring of Zoth-Avarex, Self-Proclaimed Greatest Dragon in the Multiverse by K.R.R. Lockhaven. I went to his Goodreads page while we were talking. There's a Zoth-Avarex Escape Plan Pick Your Own Adventure book.
We're reading it.
No, it's a print only, or like ebook, Kindle, whatever.
I don't care.
It's only 60 pages.
I don't give a shit.
So it's a short little adventure romp. You can read it by all means, but I don't think it's something we can cover on the podcast.
No, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Do you remember way back in the day you did your own solo episode and then Dilettante did a solo episode? I have not done a solo episode. I'm going to read this book, and I'm going to review it for a solo episode.
He's got another couple books. It looks like he started a new series. The first called The Azure Archipelago. First one is called The Marauders, the Daughter, and the Dragon. So you can give that a shot too. But again, that's print only, it looks like.
That's fine.
If you love his writing style, you may like it anyway.
I may like it anyway. The worst thing that could possibly happen is that he just wrote this as like a way to vent or like just blow off some pop culture steam.
The next books are too serious.
And the next books are super fucking serious, and I'll be like, oh. I'll still read them and I'll still be fair, but I'll be disappointed if they're not funny.
The other book's average rating is higher than The Conjuring's highest rating, so yeah, they might be good.
Yeah, they might be good.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. If you'd like to get into contact with us to suggest other amazing things, like how Bantam loved this, maybe you have a good idea for something that he would love or I would love, or something to tempt Dilettante back on the show, or you just want to like express opinions or anything, Bantam, where can they get in contact with us?
All right, so they can get in contact with us on Twitter at officialwadpod. This needs to be updated because I think we got a blue sky now. I don't know what that is.
We'll have to figure it out. Next episode we'll have it.
Well, I know we got a blue sky code, and I know we registered the name, and then Dilettante was in charge of that. I think I'll have to be in charge of that.
Yeah. Take care of that. We'll have the new plugs next episode. But for now,
our email is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com. We have a Patreon at World of Dragons Podcast, which I did pause for January for all of those wondering.
We kind of had a very slow end of year because of holidays and whatnot.
Holidays, working, retail, it's been a nightmare, and I know that there were some people who were disappointed that we weren't recording regularly, so I went ahead and paused the Patreon to kind of apologize. Mm-hmm. And then we do have a Discord linked in the show notes. We did get an email. So first of all, this episode was from an email. So once again, huge thank you to Jasper. Absolutely amazing suggestion. I'm very, very fucking happy that you emailed. We have another. So he has a bunch of other stuff in his suggestions list that we'll probably bounce back and forth because you did give, I think it was like 7 or 8 of them. But we got another email from someone named Jocelyn. And they said, "Hi, I listen to your podcast, and I have a book suggestion. One of my favorite book series is called The Last Dragon Chronicles. It has dragons. It's by the author Christy Lacey. It might be a good thing to discuss in the podcast, and I hope you consider my suggestion. P.S. There's also a book series by the same author called Earth Dragons, spelled E-R-T-H.
Oh, I've read Earth Dragon.
It has dragon characters and is in the same universe as The Last Dragon Chronicles. Sent from my iPhone."
So I've read the first book from the Earth Dragons. That was pretty good. Definitely meant for children. Like, it's written for the same age group as Wings of Fire, but it definitely feels like it. Whereas you could like argue Wings of Fire, can be enjoyed by older people because it's written really well. This is definitely it's written for younger audiences. It definitely feels like it. Jesus Christ, 7 books in The Last Dragon Chronicles. Okay.
Yeah, the other, if anybody knows these other books that are gonna show up on Jasper's list, aside from The Conjuring, he suggested Axterra Banking and Finance, Heartscale, Ash and Ambition, Dark Lord of Dirkholm, and the Cloud Roads.
Dark Lord Durcom is a Griffins, not dragons.
Griffins,
though. Which is fine. It's valid. We're going to do all other monsters included. Not only dragons, but...
In parentheses, after Ash and Ambition, he said it's a shifter. And after Cloud Roads, he says it's shifters. And then after Dark Lord of Durkholm, he said it's Griffins. Jasper does say that he would really like us to review Axterra the most because it's quite sweet with dragon/human interactions and a cool play on the Horde trope.
Yeah, I'm just looking up stuff real fast. Alright, so Christy Lacey does not have The Last Dragon Chronicles on Audible. And again, we try to stick with Audible more often because with the way we work, we have like 10 hours of listening time for every 1 hour of reading time we have available to us. So we kind of try to lean towards audiobooks a bit more. So that being said, since it does not look like The Last Dragon Chronicles have an audiobook format right now, that will have to go a bit further down on the list. The next book we're going to do is actually going to be the Axterra Banking and Finance, because that is a print-only one. And then after that, we'll probably do another audiobook or some other sort of visual media like a game or movie. We'll figure that out. But like after we do Axterra, the next physical book we do can probably be one of the ones that Jocelyn suggested. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So we'll do Axterra next.
All right.
All right. Again, thank you for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.